this is where we are. Chip seal Flowery Trail from milepost 0 to the county line at 26 feet wide is $250,000. Chip seal Fertile Valley from milepost 0 to milepost 6.9 at 24 feet wide, $178,000. Chip seal the north portion of Scotia Road, which is where the guys are working now. And again, that's only 4.7 miles of that road. I can't see here, is $121,300. The match money for Kings Lake Road is $655,000. And finally, the McKinsey match money phase 2 is $390,000. It's my opinion that the $390,000, we haven't been awarded that, but in all likelihood, we will be awarded a phase 2 project. We've put the request in and we've asked for it. But I don't believe that we've been awarded that yet. This one, the $655,000, we have been awarded that contract. And, you know, they were basically giving us $3.5 million to build that road. And I don't want to lose that for lack of a match money. And I have no idea where we're going to come up with the match money. So my total request is match money is basically $1,045,000, and chip sealing the 3 primary roads to preserve those is $554,000. Total request is about $1.6 million. In the past, I've told you and you know, made estimates that we were behind by $7.5 million. And that was a while ago. And we're not catching up. We're falling further behind every single year. We fall behind. And I encourage you to talk to Roy. Roy lives it more than I do. I'm here down in South Florida and don't see it. But Roy drives it every day, and he says the level of frustration that he's getting is just terrible. And you know, just watching the roads deteriorate out from underneath him. He's a man that's got a lot of pride. You've seen the kind of work they do. I mean, when they are able to and they have the money, they do fantastic work. But right now, we're probably operating on 50% of what we could spend if I turn those guys loose and decide just go do it. One last thing before I turn the time back. I was here before I made a request to the Secretary of Transportation and said, look, I want to use the federal dollars for maintenance. And the Secretary of Transportation actually wrote back and said, okay, you can do that. What that does is it makes it so you can't do any of the construction projects like McKinsey Road because you're using that money for maintenance. We could make that request again, but it still leaves the whole of the match money. And whether or not they would grant it, I got no's all the way up to the top. And then the top guy said yes. They didn't like it. The Secretary of Transportation was the only one that authorized it. The subordinates were not happy about us using that money as maintenance money. But it can be done. It was done once. So there it is, open for questions or comments, or that's it.
I will lead off, Craig. I'll first say, if ever the messengers, you and Roy, make the message completely coherent and believable, it's this occasion. So in terms of what you've presented, it's 100%. In terms of the questions that I believe should be asked and answered are, first, is this the request for $1,600,000? Does it represent good policy? And in this room, and I think each of us have said, yes, county roads are the most valuable asset that we have. We have seen from your presentations that a number of roads are at that critical point of decline where you can either catch them or you're just not going to catch them. And would granting the request for $1,600,000 represent good policy in terms of moving forward on the goals and priorities that represent the best interests of Pend Oreille County? From my perspective, the answer is yes. Second question is this good for people? And there'll be two parts to the people comment. The first is for the people of the county. Roads matter. People drive on their roads. I mean, this is what the real contact for many people on a daily basis is the roads. So from a citizen perspective, could I look a constituent in the eye and say this allocation of $1,600,000, it's in your best interest, and have them likely say, yeah, I get that. I believe the answer is yes. Part two of the people part is Roy and your crews. There needs to be a message to them that the county's willing to make hard decisions that give them the resources they need to do their job, not just on a day-to-day basis, but on a long-term basis. I mean, the pride of core is a big determining factor in how well you move forward. So on that basis, I believe the answer is yes, and we'll come back to that in a minute. And then source of funds, I mean, it was about a month ago when you first brought this up that in this Public Works update, I said, I believe whatever request is made from the local assistance and tribal consistency funds, that would be a reasonable source for these funds. So on that, my perspective would be yes. So I'll, in summary, if you are going to bring this to this board, I would suggest that a request of $1,600,000 from the local assistance and tribal consistency fund. I'd love it if it was a week from today. So at the rodeo, a week from tomorrow, we can announce good news to your crew, because that'd be a great energy boost. And I would, as one commissioner, say, if you bring that to this board 1 week from today for a vote for $1,600,000, I will enthusiastically vote yes. With that, over to my fellow commissioners, and then to Jill.
Craig, compliment you on an excellent presentation. That's, not news to me at all. I'm pretty aware where we're at. It's very sobering. It has been for some time for myself. My concern is, if we had the money on an ongoing basis, we would have solved this. It's not just, oh, well, we're holding back on it. This is a one-time fix to an ongoing problem that has taken decades to get to this place. And the solution needs to be a decade-long solution. And I understand that this will money in the short term, because we're going to hopefully prevent some of these roads from deteriorating even further and requiring even further deterioration. But I'm still hung up on the fact that we need to come up with long-term solutions to funding Pend Oreille County roads, specifically ongoing maintenance. And we have a chunk of revenue. And what's the wisest use of that chunk of revenue? Is the wisest use to take that revenue and try to leverage it to come up with a long-term solution? Or is the wisest use to take that revenue and solve our immediate problems? And that's where we're at. And I'm not going to say I'm going to come down one way or the other on it yet. And we've debated this and bandied it back and forth. And you make a really good case, and I have a lot of compassion for those guys out on the roads, because they have to sit there and see it all the time. And the public sees it, not as clearly, I think, as our road crews see it. But I mean, that's something that we have to weigh as commissioners. That's why we get the big buck, is making those kind of decisions. And so I'm definitely going to lean on Jill here in a minute and get her thoughts on it. I think that we've already discussed the local tribal assistance money. We've already had that discussion. I thought we were pretty much agreed that we were going to use that for, revenue enhancing activities that would increase revenue for the county. This for sure saves us money. It for sure does. But to me, that falls outside of that, what we had previously agreed on. And we've been down that road.
It's there's a kind of a concept that's been socialized at Wasac, and that is that they continue to underfund critical programs because they can, because they get away with it. Because at the county level, we pivot and we sell off equipment and we get creative and we do this and that to solve it. Rob from Peter to pay Paul, whatever else it is. And so they don't ever have to get educated. They're not ever forced to solve the declining taxes, of course, and I know I'm preaching to the choir there. You guys know that's a declining source of revenue with a fiscal cliff ahead of us. To me, this isn't a roads problem. This is a funding problem. It'll be the toughest decision we make in a while, I'm sure. I keep coming back to this place where it's kind of that saying that the best time to plant a tree is 30 years ago, but the second best time is today, right? Where I regret that sustainable sources of revenue weren't put in place in a way that we would be benefiting from that today. The interest on this alone was a surprise, a windfall for Pend Oreille County last year. Just in an interest-bearing account. If you left it in there forever and funded roads with that, that is a better decision than this. And this is not a criticism of what you're doing, Craig. You are juggling all of the things, right? I mean, let's be clear. And then there is the save money versus spend money equation, right? That first shoulder in the curve. I feel like the correct answer is if we gave you all 4 million, you could burn it in a year or two. Hands down, no question. That's half of what you need now, frankly, just to get back on the regularly scheduled maintenance. You know,
Yes.
You call it 7.5, that's 8 or 9 now, maybe more. And it's gone, and we haven't solved the problem. We've made the roads a little safer, and that's significant. That's a big piece. It's not very forward thinking. There's a big piece of me that feels like this has to get worse before it gets better. Like somebody at the state has finally got to get on board with this. And it's an unpopular message. It leaves us in a place where we're zipping up roads, we're turning pavement to ground. You know, we're trying to work within our budget. There's some of that message here. Are we working within our budget? Into Jill's understanding there, my inclination is to find ways to turn this 4 million into a much bigger number, a much longer number, so that whoever is in place of Craig Jackson and John Jennell 20 years from now doesn't have to make this decision. They have dollars because of work that the 4 of us did here today, or everybody in this room did here today. That would be my inclination. The revenue sources, not just the gas tax, but the others, sales tax, property tax, et cetera, those are drying up. And I think that's a bigger problem that affects every department. This is something much more far reaching than just roads. Roads is a very acute and real need and presented in a way that it's incontrovertible, right? This is excellent stuff, but where was this 10 years ago? You know, like, could we have taken this to the legislature 10 years ago and we'd have different results right now? A lot of work to be done. Jill, what are your thoughts here?
Well, first of all, I would like to say, let's slow down a little bit. This is for 2025. We don't even have the 2025 budget out.
Right.
For you to prioritize.
Right.
The matching money, so there was a couple questions I have for Craig. First of all, the matching money, we don't want to lose a grant because of matching money, well, you know. So obviously that is a big priority. The other part, the maintenance part, I saw you had $682,000 for maintenance in your budget this year. How, do you already have plans for that 682,000 next year? For maintenance?
Basically what I did, Jill, is last year when Roy, I didn't say, here's your budget, put together what needs done. I left it open to him and I said, tell me what needs done, and then I will put the numbers to it. And he came in just with the most critical things at double the amount of money that we had. So I'm projecting that. You're right, I don't have my budget yet. My budget has gone down in the last year because of gas taxes. And so I don't expect it to be higher than $700,000 next year. I expect it to be about the same. And therefore the needs, and let me step back even one more step. To the commissioners, when I first came here, I shared with them, we have $7.5 million worth of needs out there. Some of them are subdivision roads, which in my opinion should be gravel roads. You know, that's my opinion because we can't afford to pave them. But all of our arterial roads should be paved. And of that 7.5 million, probably half of it is arterial roads. But I know there's a huge need out there in order to spend more than we are now. The other thing is balancing how much time we're spending versus how much time we have. The guys are only working on paving, graveling, because we run out of money. The rest of the time they're doing non-consumable things such as ditching roads, reblading roads, doing vegetation clearing. Those are cheap functions. Where the need is out there for us to be preserving our roads, our road surface, our graveling. So it's an easy thing for me to say, and I know I can support it. I've done enough research to know that there's a vast need ahead of the amount of money that we have.
Okay.
And
that-
did it make my question very clear? What I was getting at, I thought if we already had a maintenance plan, a plan for the next several years, were these chip seal projects already in that maintenance plan that you?
We do have that, Jill, and that one was constrained by future projections of budget, but the need is still there. Whether a responsible budget doesn't say here's double the amount of money unless you work for the federal government. Sorry, I had to throw that in there. You stay within your budget, and I know about what our budget is. So when we made those long-term plans, we were figuring on what the budget is, knowing it's not enough, knowing that we have to postpone these things. And so this request today was, these are critical arterials that we're not going to get to in the time when we should be getting to them. We're going to keep losing that road, and it's going to cost more and more every single year if we don't do them. And so that's so absolutely what you said. We have a plan, and that's responsible, but that plan is way behind what the need is.
The current plan and the depth of resources associated simply manage a significant decline in county roads. And correct me if I'm wrong here, Craig, what Craig's proposal does is expand the scope of the plan to lessen the decline. I wish I could say it sort of manages the incline or whatever it would be.
That's correct. That's correct. Yes.
And to respond, I have full respect for your desire to have this occur in a methodical kind of sequential process in alignment with the budget. I'm going to say we're going to do it differently. I mean, Craig's in charge of the department, but the urgency, there is a degree of urgency here. And I'm going to simply say, Craig, I'm going to request, you're the decision maker. I'm going to request that 1 week from today, you bring us a head sheet for $1,600,000. The head sheet, it can be conditional. I mean, there can be parts of it that say, you know, if you don't get the Mackenzie Road, I mean, I would assume you'll get it. If you don't, that'll get backed out, or it'll get, well, we can talk about that. I'm gonna request, because I'm gonna call a vote on this. And to the degree that this body wishes to have a discussion of kind of the alignment between this request and our agreement on the uses of the local assistance and tribal consistency fund, happy to have that discussion.
Robert.
Yeah.
You wanna rush this, it's a no, okay? Yeah, and
Why
we
would-
need to have a discussion.
The
And we can't have
proposal
this-
was for next budget year.
Yeah.
The proposal Craig gave us was not find me $1.5 million this afternoon.
I'm not gonna be rushing anything.
It's prioritizing this over needs we don't even know come budget season this fall. It is to say, this is the most important thing in the county and by budget season. Which strictly defines where we spend money and stay within budget. We don't know what the acute needs in the county are. I mean, if we have critical needs and corrections, like we're gonna have to close it down like another county's just done and send it to another state. We really have to have that information, right?
So since you asked a question, I'll answer. We do know a critical need.
Yes.
And roads are a critical need. And we've
Agreed.
been having this discussion for years and we have not taken action. This is an opportunity to take action in anticipation of, sure, we'll fill in the blanks on the budget. This is a chance to send a message to the people of the county that we have backed our words with an action.
The time to make those decisions is at budget time.
I fundamentally disagree with that. I fundamentally disagree with that.